What is up, everybody? This is Adam. Welcome back to Fouled Out. This episode of the podcast is coming out on Thanksgiving Day. So, in the spirit of the holiday, Matt and I have put together a list of everything we are thankful for this NFL season. We're going to go back and forth on the podcast today and share those. There's some serious ones, some fun ones, and kind of everything in between. But before I bring Matt on, wanted to talk about my alma mater, the Western Michigan Broncos football team, for a little bit. This segment on the top of the podcast has turned from baseball corner to Western Michigan corner, but it's an exciting time for us. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that the Broncos had their destiny in their own hands as far as making the MAC championship game, and how that is a very scary thing if you are a fan of the Western Michigan Broncos, because it is not a long and storied history of our football program. We have won one MAC championship and two bowl games, both of which have occurred since I left the school in 2012. So not a lot of exciting things have gone on for this football program outside of, we had the PJ Fleck era that led into the Tim Lester era, who I hated. And now we have Lance Taylor as our head coach, who I've really come around on. But it's a very unique Western Michigan football team. They beat Northern Illinois 2 weeks ago. They beat Eastern Michigan last night to clinch a appearance in the MAC championship game in Detroit in a few weeks. Winning another game against Eastern last night that I kind of feel like they had no business winning, even though the score was 31-7 in the fourth quarter, and we let Eastern score a couple of garbage time touchdowns. This Broncos team cannot pass the ball. We only had 100 passing yards again last night, but almost 300 rushing yards again. And the number one defense in the MAC has really led the way for this team. So it's defense, it's the rushing game. They are really the MAC version of the Philadelphia Eagles. If you haven't watched MAC football and want to get a good comparison for what watching this Western Michigan team is like, it's not pretty. Some would say it's not necessarily good a lot of the time, but it is effective, as they went 7-1 in the MAC this year, the best mark they've had since they went undefeated and made the Cotton Bowl 2013 range. But last night, Eastern Michigan had this kid, Deontay McMillan, their running back, who had 111 rushing yards and 126 receiving yards, most of which came in the first half. And man, that kid was awesome. But if he just had like some breakaway speed, he had multiple long plays where he got tracked down by a Western Michigan defender before he could score. And those possessions mostly turned into field goals and turnovers for the Eagles. So, this is something that we talk about that's really, really important in NFL scouting. And keep in mind, this is the MAC, so we're not expecting to see elite speed. But when we're scouting running backs and wide receivers for the NFL, we talk about breakaway speed and the ability to get into the second level and then separate from guys. And when you watch the best running backs in the NFL, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, those guys all have that like home run second gear. And that's what allows them to break off these massive touchdown runs a lot of the time. This kid, Deontay McMillan, he was amazing last night, but just missing that second gear to really break away from the Western defenders. Time after time, he would bust a huge play and then get tackled from behind. And that was kind of the difference in the game, is that Eastern couldn't capitalize on those opportunities. Western got the stops. When Western got in the red zone, they did capitalize on those opportunities, even though they don't have a big home run hitter. So the rest of this weekend, for me, from a college football perspective, is going to be waiting to see who joins the Broncos in the MAC championship game. I think there's 4 teams that are all tied at 4-2 in the MAC. Miami, Ohio, who is the only team who beat Western Michigan in the MAC this year, is favored to make it. I think they have the easiest route, followed by Toledo and then our arch rival Central Michigan. So it'll be super fun to see. I'm really excited for the Broncos to go to the MAC championship. They've already clinched a bowl game, which, I think I told you guys last week that my goal for them every year is like to get 6 or 7 wins and make a bowl game and hopefully win the bowl game. Competing for a MAC championship is just like, oh man, it takes the cake, because we only have one. So I'm really excited to see if they can get another one. Might go to that game in Detroit in a couple weeks. We'll see how that goes. Western Michigan also won what is called the Michigan Cup between Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan, and Western Michigan, all of the directional Michigan schools. Whoever wins that series every year gets the Michigan Cup. Western takes it this year. Suck it, Giles. So that's super exciting as well. That's all I got on Western. There's no in-depth analysis needed. I'm just really excited and wanted to talk about it. It's been an awesome year. They started 0-3. I think they started 1-1 in the MAC, and they've ripped off 4 straight wins or something like that, and finished the MAC season 7-1. Finished the season 8-4 overall. So a great season for Western Michigan. Really pulling for them in this MAC championship game and then into bowl season. Something that still really matters to me as a fan of a small school. Also, a quick shout out to my dad's best friend, Joe, who is listening to the podcast this week. Joe was, I think, born and raised in New England and went to college in New England, and for some god-awful reason decided that he still wanted to be a Colts fan, which is a mistake that I think that he's paid for the last however many years. I'm usually really hard on people who want to switch their football allegiances, but for Joe, for you, we will make an exception. If you would like to come over to the light side and root for Drake May instead of Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts, you are absolutely welcome to. So shout out to Joe. Thanks for listening. Even though he's a Colts fan, he is a great guy, someone that I really respect and like. So always have to give him a hard time if we know he's listening. And with that said, just a reminder, you can reach out to us, fouledoutsports@gmail.com. Really appreciate you guys listening and your support. Hit us up, talk about baseball. MLB free agency just started. The Jays gave a huge contract to Dylan Cease. The Red Sox trading for Sonny Gray. Got some thoughts on that if you guys want to chat about that. We got NHL season in full swing. And of course, the college football playoffs were coming down to the wire. Rivalry week this week, so there's tons to talk about. Reach out to us. I will get back to you. And now that we are done with the intro, let's grab Matt. Let's talk NFL football. Let's go. All right, Matt is here, fresh off of week 12 of the NFL season. A week that at one point, Matt, I was watching the games and kind of flipping back and forth between watching the Patriots lose 2/5 of their offensive line and then watching Jameis Winston catch an absolutely ridiculous touchdown on the Detroit Lions. And I was like, God damn, this may be one of the darkest podcasts we have done in some time.
Yeah.
But both teams,
bleak.
Yeah, it was gonna be a very tough week 12 for us. So I mentioned in the open that we are going to try to focus on positivity in this episode because it could have been the exact opposite. And since this is coming out on Thanksgiving, we are going to talk about all of the things that we are thankful for this NFL season instead of focusing on what an absolute catastrophe week 12 almost was for both of us. So, Matt, why don't you lead us off with your first thing that you are thankful for?
The first thing I'm going to say I'm thankful for is why I am feeling a lot more positive now as of 3-4 hours ago. Frank Ragnow. He is unretiring and rejoining the Detroit Lions. The interior offensive line has been the biggest weakness of the Detroit Lions all season long. And having the opportunity to add a Hall of Fame caliber starting center to patch that issue up, it doesn't get better than that. It just doesn't. The last 3 years of his career, it was really him and Jason Kelsey in a class of their own, and everyone else below them. That it is that huge.
This man truly does not care if he ever walks again. He's like, this one more shot is totally worth it. I really hope that he's able to have an impact for you guys. Just someone coming in week 13 of the season just makes me a little bit nervous as far as like conditioning, and it's a similar playbook. Sure. I imagine it's a little bit different than the offense they were running last year with Ben Johnson as the OC, but to add a player of that caliber at this point in the season, after the trade deadline is over, like at this point, you shouldn't be able to add dudes really at all, pretty much, unless it's like a practice squad guy. And they're like, hey, we have a Hall of Fame center who's going to come and play the last couple games for us.
It was literally, today was the deadline for a retired player to join the roster. So it does, like, if you're reading the tea leaves, they were in contact with him the entire year.
Yeah.
Like, this didn't come out of left field for them.
Frank Ragnow pisses me off because he was a guy that there was a lot of rumors that the Patriots were targeting him in that draft. And then I believe you guys traded up to get him. I can't remember 100%.
Yep.
Yeah. So you guys,
the Bengals were really, really, really into him, and then settled for Billy Price. So,
oof.
But, bit of a drop off there.
My team really wanted him too, and the Lions traded ahead of like a bunch of offensive line hungry teams to grab him, which ended up being a smart move because he's a Hall of Fame center. My first thing I'm thankful for, and Matt accused me of putting this entire episode together just so I could talk about this. And I told Matt, I put every single episode together just so I can talk about this. Well, there can be no other answer for a Patriots fan than I am thankful for Drake May and Mike Vrabel. The Patriots are 10-2 now, the best record in the NFL. We are number 27 in defensive DVOA. We are 28th in rush EPA. And our estimated wins is 5.7 if you use the DVOA Pythagorean thing. I don't think that people have quite realized that basically what is going on with this team is that Drake May has just taken a completely mediocre roster and made it the best team in the NFL record-wise through 12 weeks. I mean, how far it goes, we'll see. I've said this a couple times on the pod. I don't expect to go super far in the playoffs with some of the glaring holes this roster has, especially now that some of our offensive linemen are injured. But Drake May, number 1 in total EPA this year, number 3 in EPA per dropback for quarterbacks, leads the NFL in passing yards with Stephon Diggs, Pop Douglas, Kayshon Boutte as his targets, which, like, good, not great. And then the other piece of that is just that Mike Vrabel, like, phenomenal coaching job. He's hands down the coach of the year this year. I will hear no other arguments for anybody else other than Mike Vrabel, like, completely changing the culture. And with both of these guys, there were so many, like, when you go back and look at it, there were so many moments where we almost didn't get one or both of them, where, like, Vrabel got fired, not this offseason, but the offseason before, and ended up going and coaching at Ohio State for a whole year because, like, the Jets and Giants didn't want to sign him to be their head coach. And then Drake, it's like there were so many, like, oh, you know, the Vikings offered a boatload of picks, and, you know, who knows what the Bears and the Commanders are going to do ahead of the Patriots and blah, blah. So there's a billion times where we almost couldn't get both of these guys. And to have now a top 5 coach quarterback combination for the foreseeable future is, I think, something to be extremely thankful for.
Yeah. I promise these aren't going to be all homer picks. But I am thankful for the best running back in the league in Jahmyr Gibbs. The dude just deletes angles. It's wild watching this guy and then realizing, oh, he's not really breaking a lot of tackles, but when I'm sitting there watching him play, it's because in these situations where other running backs would need to break a tackle, he's so fast that he's already by the defender before they have a chance to put him in that position. Like he's completely disintegrating like any sort of plan that a safety can have coming down. It's wild to watch.
Yeah, and a casual 55 fantasy points this week for full PPR.
Just a casual 55.
Just a casual, just dropped a casual 55. Yep. Not to mention he might have saved your entire season against the New York Giants.
Yes, yeah, and kind of on top of that, like, I'm very thankful for Dan Campbell, right? Because that, like, there's not a whole lot of guys I would rather have steering us through like a rocky season like this, which feels weird to be saying like we're 7-4, but it's rocky. Like it feels like I'm getting a little high and mighty after all the bad years, but it hasn't been pretty at all times. And I mean, having Jahmyr Gibbs definitely makes that easier, but also like you need the leadership, and Dan Campbell is probably the best leader among coaches in the NFL. And then you get to add Frank Ragnow into that leadership as well. So
it's funny.
I feel good about where this team is heading.
It's funny how much things have changed in Metro Detroit, just for Lions fans in general. Like, how long would you have absolutely killed to have this season as a Lions fan?
Right.
And then now it's like disappointing. It's like, we're only 7-4.
Most of my life, like, we're fully into draft coverage now. We're looking at who we're drafting, like what pick are we gonna get? Like, it's not like if that is what you are thinking about right now as a Lions fan, then you need help.
It's kind of insane that this is the sixth season that we've had this podcast.
5th year.
Yeah, 5th year. And this is the first time that we've been in week 13 and neither of us has been focused on the NFL draft. Like, both of our teams are good for the first time in podcast history. I was going to say maybe the first time in the history that we've been friends, but there was like 1 or 2 years the Lions were good during the Patriots dynasty, but that's kind of been it. The next thing I'm thankful for is Jackson Smith and Jigba and his breakout season. So you may recall that I went super hard on JSN being a my guy in that draft. He's one of my favorite receivers I've ever seen come out of college. I loved him. He was in a wide receiver room at Ohio State with Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jameson Williams, like numerous big name receivers. And every single one of them said, this guy is the best one. Like, no doubt, he is the best one of us. In 11 games, he has 80 catches for 1,313 yards and 7 touchdowns. That is a pace of 124 catches for 2,029 yards, which would beat the NFL record set by Calvin Johnson of 1,964 yards, granted in one less game. But, I mean, JSN just on pace to have an all-time year as a wide receiver in this is his 3rd year in the league.
Yeah,
just absolutely balling out. So I'm thankful that he proved me right and that he is awesome.
This guy is doing things that just don't feel real, like they shouldn't be happening. The efficiency, the explosive rates, like, it's like the only thing that's going to stop him from breaking Calvin Johnson's record is potentially injury. That's the only thing that can stop it.
Or Sam Darnold.
Because no one else is stopping him.
Sam Darnold might. That would be my biggest fear.
Even in Sam Darnold's bad games, he's like had over 100 yards.
Yeah, you know what's funny is that like Darnold wasn't that great against the Titans on Sunday. He had like 260 yards, 2 touchdowns, like pretty decent Sam Darnold game. But
Yeah.
Jackson Smith and Jigba had 167 of those yards and had a massive touchdown.
My next is maybe a little bit more abstract, but just the return of the emphasis of the running game in the NFL. That for a while there, it definitely was trending, and certainly the NFL still loves its passing game, right? But it was trending in a direction of, well, pass, 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 right? And the rules are still kind of favoring that for sure. But I mean, we've seen more and more teams turn to like, we are a run first team and we will utilize the pass for explosives off of that. And right now, we are heading into week 13, and we have 2 running backs that have already eclipsed the 1,000-yard mark on the season. And there are 2 more that are within 100 yards beyond that. Another 5 running backs that are within 200 yards of that. So, like, that we're seeing a lot more emphasis on running the ball than we did in that, like, I want to say it was like right when Mahomes exploded, right? Like the 50 touchdown year and all that. Like everyone wanted to copy that, which turns out you can't. What do you know? And I just think it makes the game more interesting. It's like watching an NBA game where all they do is shoot threes, right? Like it gets boring. It adds more complexity to the game. And we need that.
Yeah, I think I've talked about this on the pod before, but there's a really good book called Blood, Sweat, and Chalk that talks about the cyclical nature of offense versus defense in the NFL and about how offense typically leads and is like 5 years ahead because they are forced to innovate, and then defense by nature is reactionary. So I think what we're seeing is we're in like year 2 of, all these defenses, in order to stop passing attacks, went to heavy cover 2 schemes with 2 high safeties. And now, we talked about this last year. What is the best way to punish 2 high safety? Run the ball. Big personnel. Those safeties are not in the box. You got to pound it. And we saw a team start doing that last year, and now teams have done it more and more this year. And I would bet you for the next couple of years, we're going to see more of it until defenses find more of a counter to that, and then offenses will change, and then defenses will change. And like, it's one thing that's really fascinating about football that you don't have in leagues like the NBA or MLB to a large degree of like, in the NBA, it's like, hey, we're just going to shoot more threes and more threes because it is like the most efficient version of offense. In the NFL, there is no most efficient version of offense. It's like, do what you do best and use your personnel and draft and develop and like build schemes to your advantage. And it's more of a chess match than who can hit more threes. Matt, I'm thankful for Jerry Jones this year. I want you all to hear me out. Jerry Jones has been a content machine for podcasters this season. So we're in like the lull before the NFL season starts, and Jerry Jones is like, I might fuck up Micah Parsons' contract and have to trade him somewhere else. And we have something to talk about for weeks. And then he does trade Micah Parsons, and we have something to talk about. And then the Cowboys suck, and we have something to talk about. And now we're in week 13. The Cowboys just had a 21-point comeback against the Eagles. The Cowboys might be good. And he's given us another thing to talk about. And I missed one thing.
Because he was involved in more big trades.
Yes, and he fucking trades a first-round pick that he got from Micah Parsons for a 29-year-old interior defensive lineman at the trade deadline when they're 3-5, and he gave us more to talk about. So I'm just grateful for Jerry just being like, hey, you guys need something to talk about? I got you. Dallas Cowboys, like absolute content machine. Elite content production from Jerry Jones. Also, I said this on an earlier episode of the podcast, but I think it rings even more true now. I think a lot of you guys are not ready to have the Jerry Jones cooked conversation from this past offseason. Trades a third for George Pickens, who's been a revelation for them. One of only two receivers to have over 1,000 yards.
There's a legitimate argument that George Pickens has surpassed CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah. Yeah, he's truly been phenomenal for them this season. But he gets Pickens, he gets Javonte Williams off the scrap heap, who's been awesome for them. Mm-hmm. The Parsons trade could be a win. We'll see. It's kind of up in the air still. And then now that they're 5-5-1 and had this huge win against Philly, the Q Williams trade, it's kind of like, maybe it was good. I don't know. Maybe Jerry cooked. He definitely cooked in the content creation department because he's just had our backs all season. So I am thankful for Jerry.
Yeah, even at the time when it happened, when, I was saying, I don't, it's not really what I'm doing with that draft capital, trading for Quinnen Williams. But my, one defense for him is he did trade for not just a good player, a highly disruptive player at a position that where they are disruptive, it is highly impactful. So the upside on that trade for him was really high. We'll see how far it carries them. I can imagine worse trades he could have made.
I'm not saying that Dallas is going to make a playoff push here, but how entertaining is this Thanksgiving game about to be between the Chiefs and the Cowboys?
Oh, yeah. It's a lot more fun now.
That's suddenly a fascinating game. So, what's next on your list?
I am thankful for the AFC South. Not because it's good football, but because it is pure and utter chaos. And, I have no fucking idea what's going to happen with this division at any point in time. If you think you know what's going on with the AFC South, you're either lying or you're wrong. Honestly, you can just roll a 20-sided die every year to figure out what's going to happen, and you have the same odds.
Yeah, I had the Jags on my list kind of for all of those reasons, is that I feel like they've been the most chaotic team in football to this point, where it's they had their bye week. Since the bye week, they have 2 awful overtime wins against the Cardinals and the Raiders. Both games they should have lost but win. They have that horrific loss to Houston where they were up 29-10 going into the fourth quarter. And then they beat LA 35-6. I truly, with the Jags, just anything could, literally anything could happen no matter who they're playing. Any outcome is believable with the Jacksonville Jaguars and, to a larger extent, the AFC South. My next thing I'm thankful for is that Burger King cut their advertising budget this year, because I haven't seen that goddamn Whopper commercial 5,000 times this season. And there were so many times last year where it would be okay, here's a critical play, but first we're going to go to commercial. Whopper. And it's on the other screen. You're watching your left tackle get carted off the field with an ACL injury and the Whopper commercial's going. We have not had to put up with the Whopper commercial this season.
That doesn't make it feel better?
No, it's something that we can all be thankful for.
I am just generally thankful for. I'm gonna knock on wood and regret this already. The Kansas City Chiefs losing games. Like, it was so incredibly frustrating last year to watch them play such terrible football all year long and still win 15 games. Like that, like it truly made it feel like they were invincible, and it does feel better to kind of see some comeuppance finally come from that.
Yeah, we both talked about how cathartic the Super Bowl was last year after watching an entire season of them just like squeak by and get all the calls and all the bullshit. And it's good that we haven't gone like right back to that this year.
Yeah.
I am thankful that Brandon Ayuk shunned the Patriots a couple of off seasons ago, because holy cow, is that Brandon Ayuk situation weird as hell in San Francisco right now, where the Patriots went really hard after him a couple of years ago when he was potentially going to get traded. Then he signs the extension with the 49ers for less money than the Patriots were offering. So we were going to give up a pick to get him, or picks, and then also pay him an absolute metric fuck ton of money. He stays at San Francisco, has the ACL tear, and we are now at the point where San Francisco is already voiding his guarantees for 2026 because he has not attended team meetings since he got hurt. He is purposely skipping rehab appointments for his knee with San Francisco at this point. Like, this is like an absolutely toxic stay away situation. And I am so glad that it is like not completely derailing my team's season. And, you know, we also went hard after Godwin, who hasn't played at all this year. He's trying to rehab coming off of his injury. And
he's played a little, but not much.
He has played 3 games and has 8 catches for 61 yards this season. And they're paying him $13 million this year, $34 million next year. And the Patriots offered more than that for Godwin as well. And whiffing on Ayuk and Godwin led us to having to sign Stephon Diggs, who has just been phenomenal, both on and off the field, like on the field and in the locker room. Also prolific at producing children this year, just like doing God's work. Stephon Diggs. So no, but like, I mean, how much worse could this season have been if we were still waiting for Godwin to come back, or dealing with this Ayuk situation, you know, instead of having Stephon Diggs just be awesome.
Yeah. Well, and like it made more sense for Tampa Bay to pay Godwin what they did, because he's been with them for so long. Like, you know, you're taking care of one of your guys, right? Like, you're signing a guy that hasn't been with your team and he's gonna miss almost the entire season. You don't want to spend an entire season's worth on him.
Yeah, but I also
hurts your team.
I can guarantee you that Tampa Bay would not have signed him if they knew they were going to get Egbuka in the draft, because they signed Godwin in free agency. Then we go to the draft, which I have always thought is stupid to do the draft second. But they draft Egbuka and they have like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Emeka Egbuka, Jalen McMillan, who was really good to close the year last year. That's money they could have spent in a million other places, you know. But at the time, they thought they had to do it because they're like, oh, well, we can't let him go. We don't know what we're going to have. They get Egbuka, who's been fucking amazing for them. And now it's like, okay, well, that Chris Godwin contract is kind of an albatross, paying him $34 million next season when you have all these other guys who are better than he is.
Well, and it turns out now they need them both, because if you're getting Mike Evans back, it's very late.
Yeah.
So My next one, he's not having the best year, but that's more a product of his situation. Uh, Nico Collins. He was a my guy for me coming out, and his first 2 years were really not a whole lot to speak of. But man, after those first couple years, he has kind of exploded as one of the best receivers in the NFL. And even having lower production this year, like uh, just like a couple weeks ago, he had like one of the best catches of the entire season. Just the guy making me right, even though it certainly didn't look like I was going to be right. Uh, it's especially with the evolution of the game relying so heavily on like spacing, separation. It's always good to see a bigger body guy come out and prove that they can still succeed in the NFL that way as well.
I'll give you credit for that one too, because I think Nico Collins was one of the deeper my guy polls as far as
Yep.
where he was drafted versus how good he's been in the NFL. Because he was like a third round pick, and he's one of the best receivers in the NFL.
Like that, yeah.
Yeah. I am thankful that the Eagles' offense sucks, because one of my bolds was that Saquon Barkley would finish outside of the top 10 flex players in half-point PPR for fantasy this year. He is currently number 22, in large part because the Eagles' offense sucks and they just have no idea what they're doing with that offense. And it just has not been the same this year. Also, if I had to watch back-to-back Eagles Super Bowl victories, I might stab myself in the eyes, honestly. Like, I cannot watch the Eagles win. I love that they beat the Chiefs last year. I'm ready for them to be done. I hate Philadelphia.
I was gonna say the Cowboys because they did beat the Eagles after a very, very frustrating loss to them by Detroit. Yeah, like, and it's very similar to what I was saying about Kansas City, right? It's like this team isn't even really playing good football, and it's frustrating to watch them win, especially against your team. Uh, so yes, totally with you there. I'm always down to watch Philadelphia lose.
Yeah, it's not even what we would call good football. It's just effective football, unfortunately. How many more you got? I got two more.
I got one more. I am thankful for epidurals because even though he's not on my team and we're gonna have to deal with him at some point, we are getting the best Matthew Stafford season we've ever gotten, and it's absolutely insane what he's doing right now. I mean, kind of just running away with the MVP race at this point. Drake May is probably the only guy that might have anything else to say about it. But, I mean, having a 30-2 touchdown to interception ratio is pretty insane. Especially considering the style of football that he plays. This is a guy that is not afraid to take his shots downfield. Unlike a lot of my like older criticisms of Aaron Rodgers, he is not afraid to attack the middle of the field. Same goes for Russell Wilson too. But like to play the way that he does and keep those interceptions that low, but still be putting up the touchdowns that he is and the yards that he is, like, it's one of the wilder seasons I've seen.
Yeah, at this point, through 12 weeks of football, I cannot make an argument for Drake May as MVP as much as I would love
Yeah.
to over Stafford, like watching what he has done on a week to week basis. And just, yeah, it is,
Yeah.
it is special. It's special what he is doing.
Yeah. The only reason I mention him is we have, 5 games left in the year?
Yeah.
For most teams, 4 for some.
Odds wise, I think Matt Stafford is like minus 220 to win MVP, and Drake May is second with plus 220, and nobody else is even close. But it's it hurts me, but it is Stafford's award. I'm not gonna. There's no non-obvious homer take that I can make for Drake May right now. My last two before we go to Bolds and Scolds. I really debated putting this one on my list. But I am thankful that the Thanksgiving football schedule is absolutely lit. So the 1:00 game, Green Bay at Detroit, is fucking massive and is going to determine the moods of everybody that I am spending Thanksgiving with. Kansas City and Dallas is the second game. We talked about like that is just an absolutely fascinating game at this point. No matter who wins or who loses or what happens, like that is just content gold mined. And then the night game, doesn't look that great on paper, but it is the return of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase against the Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati versus the Ravens, which is always fun. So usually I feel like when we have holiday football, it's like not good. I feel like last year at Christmas, it was like, oh, Giants Chiefs is like, okay, great. Like, fantastic, but because it's like, oh, we're going to spend time with our family. We'll have football on in the background. This year, we're all watching football. We're all watching football this year. So that's why I'm like, am I thankful for it? Because I know my wife's going to be mad at me for watching too much football at her aunt's house. But it's going to be worth it. It's going to be good football. And then my last thing I'm thankful for this year, I think something that all of us can be thankful for. I am thankful I am not a fan of the Atlanta Falcons. Yeah. They were 3-2 at one point this season, coming off of a Monday Night Football win against the Buffalo Bills. But we were all hype on Atlanta. They proceed to lose 5 in a row. And just...
We're all of us...
We were all hyped. No, I mean, I think people were more excited about Atlanta after that 3-2 start and that win over Buffalo.
There was less signs of them being themselves at that moment in time, but I was still like, I know what you're gonna do. I don't know how, but I know you're gonna do it.
Yeah. And they immediately proceeded to do it up and down the football field. Just, I was born in Atlanta, Georgia. So there actually was like a real possibility I could have grown up an Atlanta Falcons fan before we moved somewhere else. And my dad probably would have indoctrinated me to be a Patriots fan. But I could see there being a world where I grew up in Atlanta and I'm like, oh, I'm a Patriots fan, but I also root for the Falcons. You grew up in
Atlanta with Mike Vick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
it could have happened.
It's that it would have been real tough for your dad to persuade you away from being a fan of Mike Vick.
Yeah, I'm still
up until a certain point. So,
all things considered, I am still somehow a fan of Mike Vick. Even with all of the things. I know that's probably a controversial statement, but I'm still I always like Mike Vick.
The one thing I will say for Mike Vick is that Mike Vick has done everything in his power to be a better person since then. He's actually like one of the few examples that I think is like really legitimate with that. But we all love our animals. And so it's really hard for anyone to actually accept that because we think very emotionally about all that stuff. So
Yeah, everybody that listens to the pod knows this. I'm staying at my parents right now because we're renovating our house. So my beloved dog, the love of my life, is staying at my in-laws because my parents have cats and didn't want to bring my dog down here and stress the cat out. So we went to a puppy store today so that my daughter, who misses our dog greatly, could pet some dogs. And we almost walked away with like 5 puppies because I am just... One of them was making eye contact with me through the plexiglass, and I put my hand up on the glass, and he put his nose against my hand on the glass, and I was like, we have to take him home. We can't. It's so... Oh, God. I am such a sucker. My wife's like, can we please get one? And I'm like, yes, let's get all of them. Let's get all of them. The kids don't need to have Christmas. We can have 17 dogs. Bolds and Scolds, week 12 of the NFL season. I am going to lead us off this week with potentially the most controversial bold in the history of Fouled Out. My bold. Yeah. Browns starting quarterback, Shadeur Sanders. Shadeur started his first start of his career this week against the Raiders in a Browns 24-10 win. I wouldn't say that he was particularly good. You know, he was fine. He was 11 of 20 for 209, 1 touchdown and 1 pick. But what is important here is that Shadeur Sanders became the first Browns quarterback since 1999 to win his first start. Browns quarterbacks making their first career start since 1999. 26 years. Were 0-17 prior to Shadeur Sanders starting and winning his first career game. That is how many first-time quarterbacks the Browns have started. This was their 18th first-time quarterback they've started in 26 years. That is mind-blowing. And he won. That is very obviously the longest streak of that kind in the history of the NFL. So Dylan Gabriel cleared concussion protocol. They've already announced that Shadeur is going to start against San Francisco this week, which, like, talk about a team that just keeps failing upwards. The San Francisco 49ers just fucking... I'm so glad we both picked them to make the playoffs this year, purely based on schedule alone, because it is absolutely happening. But they now get Shadeur Sanders in his second start. But bold for Shadeur just for breaking that streak.
Yes, like, congrats to him for breaking that streak. He was not good. Like, below average play. He was exactly who we expected he would be in that game. Outside of, like, one absolute dime of a bomb. Like, that was an impressive throw. Outside of that, he was a 5th-round rookie QB.
I think the thing that pisses me off the most about Shadeur is, like, if he would just take things seriously and not be a total fucking asshole all the time, I think he could be an NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
Right? But he, like, his biggest thing, I'm not saying like a starter, I'm not saying one of the best quarterbacks in the league, I'm just saying, like, he could belong in the NFL.
Yeah.
And the thing that is holding him back from being better is him.
Yep.
And it's so frustrating to watch him just every single turn, because I would say there were a couple moments on Sunday he showed flashes. I mean, granted, it is against the Raiders, who are just god-awful. So,
I
grain of salt.
Strongly considered just making them my Scold.
Yeah, I mean,
they kind of deserve it.
Every week at this point. Yeah. Who is your bold?
My bold is, it hurts me, but it's Jameis Winston. I wouldn't even say he played particularly great, but man, did he play classic Jameis Winston football. Like, dude was taking shots all day long, and unfortunately for my team, he connected on a number of them. And then you top all that off with a receiving touchdown where he, I don't know, I feel like saying breaks a tackle is too strong of a word for the effort that was made there. But technically, he broke a tackle.
He got past the guy, that's for sure.
And ran the catch in for a touchdown. Like, man, like, knowing who Jameis is, like, you really can't ask for more out of him in a game like that. And I mean, it really kind of goes to show, like, Brian Dable, for whatever reason, had something against Jameis Winston. Not really sure why they signed him if that's the case. Because even without all the guys that they've lost to injuries out there, like, there was more life in that team than at any point when Russell Wilson was on the field.
Yeah. I am not looking forward to playing them on Monday Night Football this week. Okay, Jameis is starting. I mean, for multiple reasons. One is that, like, I think Jameis is going to start, and you just never know what's going to happen in a Jameis game. He could throw 5 interceptions and have 2 of them be pick sixes and the Patriots win by 30, or he could just ball like he did on Sunday again. And also, we just, like, lost the entire left side of our offensive line in Cincinnati on Sunday, and the Giants defensive line is not the defensive line I want to go up against with the entire left side of my line missing. I think this screams loss for the Patriots, and then go into the bye, and then we bounce back after that. But, like, even if we win, I'm not looking forward to this. I have PTSD. I have horrible PTSD. Anytime I see a Giants uniform, it's awful. Anytime I see the Giants away uniforms where they're wearing, like, the white jerseys and the silver pants, I instantly have flashbacks, and it's not great for me. My scold of the week: Vikings quarterback JJ McCarthy. JJ now ranks 851st out of 852 qualified quarterbacks in EPA per dropback since 2000. Would you like to guess the only quarterback he is ahead of since the year 2000? It is one where once I say the name, it's going to seem super obvious.
Is it Peterman?
It actually is not.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard this, but I can't remember who it is.
It is one Jamarcus Russell.
Yep.
Yeah. So, literally, the only quarterback in the NFL that JJ McCarthy has been better than since the year 2000 is Jamarcus Russell. Also, through 6 career starts, he is the worst quarterback in terms of EPA per dropback of any starting quarterback since the year 2000. His quarterback rating on Sunday was 34.2 against the Packers. Matt, if you just went and spiked the ball every single play, your quarterback rating would be 36. So him throwing the ball Sunday was worse than if he would just spike it directly into the ground every single play of that game. This guy is just fucking atrocious. It's so bad. And at this point, with, like, what we're seeing in terms of EPA per dropback, it might just be time to call it for him already, because the guys that, like, this is the company that he's in. as far as EPA per dropback through 6 career starts. Zach Wilson, Mark Sanchez, Josh Rosen, Achilles Smith, Blaine Gabbert, and Ken Dorsey. And I know it's only 6 games, but guys that bad do not bounce back in the NFL. None of the guys I named went on to have successful careers. I guess like you could say Mark Sanchez had the most success out of all those guys, but we just may be at the point where there's just not a path for JJ McCarthy.
What I don't understand, what isn't being talked about is, so JJ McCarthy is in concussion protocol. There's not another passer in the box score for that team. Seems like he finished the game. Why are we not looking into what the fuck happened here? Like, unless he literally got concussed on the very last play, like...
Yeah. I think that we are heading towards a bit of a referendum on Kevin O'Connell in general.
Yes.
The head coach for the Minnesota Vikings, because like you made the point when we were talking about this earlier this week, like,
yeah,
if you're like for a couple of years now, it's been like, oh shit, he is the quarterback whisperer. He had a lot of success with like Cousins and Darnold and Dobbs and like all these guys. But
guys with lots of experience.
If you're that good at coaching quarterbacks, can you just make JJ McCarthy not the worst quarterback we've ever seen?
Yeah.
Like, why is he this bad if you've had now almost 2 full years of coaching this guy? And they made a huge deal out of it in the preseason where they're like, oh, well, you know, JJ was hurt, but he was in Kevin O'Connell's office every single week last year, going over film and throws and reads and all this shit.
Maybe that was the problem.
Why is he this bad if Kevin O'Connell is so good? Who's your Scold? Just make it Kevin O'Connell. Bring it full circle.
My Scold is the Panthers. Like, what the fuck are you? Like, this team makes no sense in any way, shape, or form. So first it was like, oh, they just play good at home, but they suck on the road. But then they like go take care of business in Atlanta. And I know it's Atlanta, but like still, like we talked last week about how career best game for Bryce Young, almost 450 yards passing. Like, okay, so they figured something out. Holy shit, did everything flip the other way this past week. And they apparently just like decided that they wanted to win in a particular way because Rico Dowdle did not get the ball. Like, barely at all.
They saw Bryce Young's stat line from last week and they're like, we're an air raid team now. Let's go.
Yeah. 6 carries for Rico Dowdle in that game. And in case you were wondering, like, oh, well, maybe they just decided to give Chuba Hubbard more carries. He had 3 carries. So, like, Rico Dowdle has, without a doubt, been, like, the biggest factor in this team climbing to 6 wins. And for you to march into San Francisco and decide, hey, we don't think we're going to use this guy in this game. And it's not like his 6 carries weren't effective because he had 6.3 yards per carry.
Yeah, I feel like now would also be a good time to mention, you're talking about like, what the hell is this team? They're supposed to be good at home. They're bad on the road. Okay. I also want to mention that this team completely fucked us at home against the
Yes,
Saints like
they
2 weeks
did.
ago. 2
Yeah.
weeks ago. Goddamn Mad Cats. But that is it for us. As always, Foul Out can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Overcast, anywhere you get your podcast. You can hit us up on Gmail, fouledoutsports@gmail.com. You can watch us on YouTube, Fouled Out Sports. Really appreciate you guys listening or watching or just supporting in general. Love you guys and really appreciate you. All the shorts have moved over to YouTube as well. You can see me sitting in my parents' kitchen. It was pointed out to me that it actually looks like I'm sitting in my parents' den because I'm sitting in the kitchen and you can only see the den behind me. So, whatever. All right, Matt, NBA take of the week before we say goodbye.
I know that Jokic basically should be winning the MVP every single year. But good God, what Luka Doncic is doing is kind of pressing the boundary of that. Uh, I mean, borderline putting up a triple double. Uh, 8.8 rebounds, 9.2 assists, but he is putting up 35 points per game, and it doesn't really seem to matter who he goes up against. He's just on an absolute tear this year.
Yeah, I am all here for revenge, Luka, after what happened last season. My NBA take of the week is not really a take. It's just something really interesting I wanted to talk to you about real quick. So there is this stat called EPM, which is estimated plus minus. Hoops Hype did a story a couple of years ago where they interviewed 30 different NBA personnel. So people who work in NBA front offices and scouts and people who write about the NBA. And in this story, they interviewed all of them and said, what advanced stat do you trust the most when trying to assess the holistic impact that one player has on winning? And they basically voted and they did the top 11 advanced stats. And a lot of the list is what you would expect, where it's PER and Raptor and LeBron and defensive box plus minus and things we talk a lot about on this podcast. Mm-hmm. One thing we do not talk a lot about on this podcast is EPM. And the really interesting part of the story is that EPM was the second most trusted advanced metric for evaluating the holistic impact that one player has on winning. And we don't have to go into a ton of detail about how it's calculated. You guys can go look it up. But basically what they do is they estimate your plus minus based on trying to assess your impact on every single play. So, your plus minus is your team scores, you get plus, your team gets scored on, you get a minus. And it's what your plus minus is when you're on the court. This tries to assess your impact on every single play and assign you credit for all of the good things you do and take credit away from you for all the bad things you do, leading to your team scoring or getting scored on, basically. So I want to focus on EPM for a minute. The number one most trusted metric is actually called DPM. It is daily plus minus, but I don't want to talk about that because the thing that's different about DPM than every other stat we have is that DPM exclusively looks forward and tries to predict a player's impact on upcoming games. So it's not something you can use to say how good has a player been to this point in the season, where EPM, estimated plus minus, is. So it is the number one most trusted metric to say what impact has a player had on winning games to this point in the season. So the EPM website just posted their first actuals of the season. They needed to have a 15-game sample size to say what your EPM is to this point in the season. And I wrote it down the other day, so I'm going back on the website on my phone here to kind of give you guys an updated version. But if we look at EPM to this point in the season, and it's been, between 15 and 18 games for a lot of these guys, the guys who are leading in EPM are exactly who you would expect. So the top 5 are Shea, Jokic, Giannis, Luka, and Steph Curry. So, sounds right. Give some like credence to the stat to say like, yeah, any stat that says Shea and Jokic and Giannis and Luka are the best players in the league has some relevance because we know that. This stat gets really, really interesting when we get outside of the top 5. So I wanted to read you the top 15 guys, and like keep in mind that this is like the most trusted advanced stat by NBA front office
no
personnel.
Steven Adams, it's not legit.
To assess who is impacting winning basketball games to this point in the season. So I told you the top 5. After that, number 6, Austin Reeves, Donovan Mitchell, James Harden, Jalen Suggs, Kristaps Porzingis, Tyrese Maxey, Jimmy Butler, Jalen Duren, Victor Wembanyama, and Lauri Markkanen. That's our top 15. That is approximately 7 guys who were not in NBA top 30 at all when we voted on who the top 30 players in the NBA were this season, or last season, or between seasons, when we do the voting. So I had a lot of takes just based on that list. One of which is that like the Jalen Duren move for the Pistons is just an absolute fucking steal of that draft, because he's according to this, he's one of the top 15 guys having an impact on winning so far this season. There's obviously like so much more season to go, and so much postseason, which is what we do a lot of our voting based on. But I just think it's going to be really interesting to track this stat through the season, kind of see how it changes and see who our top, 30 guys in the stat end up being.
Also a lot of guys that just aren't even going to be in there because, if you miss even 2 games at this point, you probably haven't gotten your 15 games in yet. So,
yeah, they have guys like, so Cade's only played 14, and they have him on there, but the sample size, like Luka's played 13, so the sample size is not as reliable for those guys. So it's going to take time. This is just like the first posting of it for the year. But I just think it's really interesting going back and reading that Hoops Hype article and having so many front office personnel point to this specific stat and be like, that is the best stat for who is actually impacting winning a game. And it's not one anybody talks about because it's not on Basketball Reference. It's not on NBA.com. The only place you can find it is dunksandthrees.com is like the only public posting, which like great name for a website, dunksandthrees.com, analytics ball all the way. But there's so many like fun things you can do with it. You could flip it the other way and see who the worst players in the league are so far. And it's Bub Carrington, Trey Mann, Nigel Hayes, Cody Williams, Ben Shepherd. Like I think it's going to be a really fun stat for us to play with when we go back to do NBA top 30 and when we start talking basketball later this season. So
it'll be interesting to compare. I don't know how much it will. We'll see where it's at towards the end of the season. But right now, I'm like, I don't know if it's going to influence me that much. So
yeah, we got to see where it's at after the playoffs and all that stuff. But, I like to factor in all of these different things. So it's definitely going to be something that impacts my voting this season. And I think not so much to be like, oh, well,
you're
Anthony
an analytics
Edwards,
fiend, though.
I am. I love analytics. But it's not going to be so much like, oh, Anthony Edwards isn't actually that good because his EPM is 20th, blah, blah, blah. But I think it'll be good for kind of finding like hidden gems. Like,
yeah,
my first reaction looking at it was, I was like, God damn, Jalen Suggs is so good on defense. He's like one of the top 15 guys, stuff like that. So, but all right, this podcast is coming out on Thanksgiving. Hope you all have a wonderful holiday. Enjoy the football. It is an absolutely lit schedule. We have Thanksgiving Day football. There is a Black Friday football game at like 3 o'clock on Friday between the Bears and the Eagles. Weird ass game. It is rivalry week for college football, also the last week of the college football regular season. So we'll have a playoff. No, that comes after conference championship week. So, yeah, updated playoff rankings. We're going to find out who's playing in all the conference championships. Uh, there is state championship football for high school for Michigan on Friday and Saturday this week. You have a whole Sunday worth of NFL football, the Patriots and Giants on Monday Night Football. There are no teams on a bye week this week, so everybody plays. Also, one of the last weeks of fantasy football. So, just like a shitload going on in terms of football this weekend. So, just soak it up, enjoy the football. Matt and I will be back next week. Same fouled out place, same fouled out time. We just went through week 12. So, this was supposed to be the week we updated our power rankings and talked about who the top 5 and bottom 5 teams in the NFL were. So, we'll be back with that next week. But for now, my friend, I will see you soon.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Bye, Mom.
Bye, Robin.